Fair warning, you will probably cry during this movie. Hey, I'm Amy and welcome back. Operation Finale is a movie that is based on a true story or inspired by true events about some Jewish, I don't know if they're army or what they are, but it's a group of people who are Jewish who are trying to capture the last remaining member of Hitler's kind of, don't know exactly what it's called, but his group that planned and executed a lot of the Holocaust. So it's a very intense story. It is very sad, and you really see both sides of what is happening. You see what the Nazis were like because it is set in the 1960s, late 1950s, early 1960s. It spans kind of a 4-ish year range, but you see what the Nazis are really like. You get a really intense look into Nazi life, and it's actually kind of terrifying. And you also really get to see the Jewish side of things and how they're feeling after World War II and the Holocaust. And it's very touching and it's really sad. So like I said at the beginning, you will probably cry during this movie, especially towards the end. There's a huge emotional scene that pretty sure everyone in the theater, or most everyone in the theater, was just bawling over because there was sniffling and, oh man, everyone had tissues. It was intense, but this movie is pretty good. I was excited for it, mostly for the cast, which I figured I would probably be really excited for it for the cast and for that reason alone. And for the most part, that's kind of the reason I enjoyed this movie as much as I did, because the performances were so great. They were standout. They were amazing, especially Ben Kingsley, because, I mean, of course, Ben Kingsley is great. He's always really great. I don't think I've ever seen him in something truly where he's just been a really bad actor. Even if it's a bad movie, he's been great. He puts 110% into it. Oscar Isaacs is pretty good. It's an emotional role, and he did pretty well in it. It's probably not my favorite role of his that I've seen, but I really liked him. You really felt the connection between him and Ben Kingsley's character, and they did a lot of stylistic choices to kind of mirror both of them and how they have OCD on certain things. That's something I'll talk about later in the stylistic and story-wise choices. Nick Kroll was a surprising cast in this for me. He's not really done any dramatic movies. He's done like dramedies and stuff, but he's always been like the comedic relief, or it's still just been kind of funny. And in this, him and Oscar Isaac were both the comedic relief. More so Nick Kroll. He wasn't horrible. He was still pretty good, but he was definitely just the comedic relief. He was just in there to say a couple funny lines, because other than that, he really didn't have very many lines. If he was in the scene, he wasn't talking too much. Someone was talking at him to tell him to kind of go do something, but when he did say something, it was kind of a jab or a funny line, except for at the very end when he was doing a little bit more of the emotional stuff during an emotional sequence with Oscar Isaac. So I absolutely love the cast in this, but the story and the way that it was shown, the way they executed this story, was to me a little bit lackluster. I just felt like there were things, they drew the story out for a really long time. It was over a 2-hour movie. They probably could have cut off a bunch of stuff because it just didn't feel necessary, or it just dragged out to certain things for way too long. There were a couple little things that they placed in that you knew, because they put so much emphasis on it, that it would come up later, but it took them so much of the movie to get there that it just, you kind of forgot about it. Or if you were thinking about it and you remembered that this was going to be a thing that would go through the entire movie, or that was something that they needed to pick back up on, it just felt like it dragged on for way too long. And some of the things that they did end up following up on didn't really have the full strength. You just didn't feel the enormity or the kind of blowback from what they were following up on, because I felt like it would have been a lot grander or a bigger deal that they were doing than what happened, if that makes any sense. I was also very confused on the tone at a lot of points. Sometimes it would just be really happy and fun, which made sense because they were celebrating things, but that tone was very offset and very contrasted to a lot of the more sad or serious scenes. It just didn't feel like they kind of knew what tone they wanted to go through for the whole movie. It just was very harsh in the transition from these happy scenes to the more serious scenes. And something I talked about really briefly was the connection between Oscar Isaac and Ben Kingsley's characters. They both have some sort of OCD where they have to keep everything just like super clean and neat. They try to draw that line a little bit more visually than they do story-wise before they draw the storylines together with their backgrounds and things like that. And I thought that they could have played that up a little bit more because it felt like they were trying to show that, but I only kind of caught on to it because they kept showing certain little things that made you feel like that's what they were leading up to, but they never actually led up to that. For my rewatch score for this, I'm very unsure because I would really like to watch this movie again because I am a sucker for historical biopics, especially ones about World War II, because it just fascinates me that this one man would convince all of these people that there is a race that is not as superior as them, or that is inferior to them. I guess this makes more sense. It blows my mind that there was a man that convinced a bunch of people to kill a bunch of other people in just horrible ways because of their religion. It fascinates me. World War II fascinates me, so I probably would watch this movie again. Probably wouldn't pay a whole lot of money for it, so it's definitely not something I would add to my collection. But if there was somebody else in my family, like I'm at home with my parents and they wanted to see this movie, or I had a friend who wanted to see this movie, I'd probably watch it again. You know what? Honestly, I probably would just Netflix this. And that would probably also be my like rating, like a star rating would be a 3 out of 5. It's like not my absolute favorite movie ever, and it's not like a super horrible movie either. It's just kind of right there in the middle. But I think that is everything for me. Let me know in the comments down below if you have seen Operation Finale. I know it's not like a super wide release right now, but if you have seen it, let me know what you think of it. And thank you guys so much for watching. I really truly do appreciate every single one of you. Let me know who you are in the comments down below, and let's be friends. If you enjoyed this, leave a like and subscribe if you're new, because I love talking all things movies, TV shows, filmmaking, film history, all that fun stuff, and I'll see you next time. Bye!